Sometimes I get the question here at Whirlwind Family Farm, what is the most important thing I can do for my garden each year? And there are a lot of different things you can do for your garden to make it be successful. But I'm about to tell you exactly the thing, and it's not going to be quite what you think to have the most successful garden. By the way, I'm Jeff. This is Whirlwind Family Farm here in Central Texas. We're so glad you found our channel. So back to what it takes to have a successful garden. Now, let me tell you first, if you have a smaller garden, a backyard garden setting, this is a pretty easy thing to do. I'll tell you this up front. This is a simple thing to do, especially in small backyard settings. And I always say, some of you have heard me say this, may be tired of hearing me say this, but 10 by 10, 20 by 20, a small backyard garden that can produce a lot of food. It's always amazing how those small spaces can produce a lot of different vegetables. So, what is the most important thing that you can do for any garden to have it be successful? And that's consistency. And what I mean by that is just a routine of doing the same things each week. Now, I will tell you, consistency does not guarantee success because there's a lot of things. There's squash bugs out there. There are gophers that will do damage. There are early frost, late frost, types of insects, birds, things that can come in and destroy part of your garden that you didn't count on. I'll give you an example. When we first started this garden, we would let our tomatoes ripen on the vine just a little bit too long, and that was an open invitation for birds to come in and get a big old bite and enjoy those tomatoes, and you can't blame them. So we learned early on, once you start seeing a little pink, a little change, we harvest. And I've done a video about this, and those tomatoes now have everything they need to ripen up inside and away from the birds. So back to, why is consistency so important? And here's what I'm talking about. Is it in a market garden like this is about an acre, or whether it's a big monocrop that may be 1,000 acres of corn, consistency is what gives you the better chance of success. And that means picking a day of the week where you are weeding or hoeing weeds. And out here we do weeding several different ways. We use wire weeders, or we use collinear hose. There's a lot of different, I have a video on that where we talk about all the different types of weeding. But there's a day of the week I pick each week where I weed. There is a time in the week, each week, I consistently water, unless there's been rain. And you can go out, I always say, you get your finger down that soil, see how wet the soil is. May not need watering that day. Whether you top water or use drip lines like we do, consistency, finding that. There is a time each year when we put down compost. It may not take a lot of compost. It may be a half an inch on the top of these beds because you have to have that organic material. It may be consistently putting down, as I'm walking here behind me, there are peppers. And once these peppers got the right size, they need a little bit of support. So I go in and I'll put these little bamboo shafts. So if a big wind comes in, it won't blow them over and break them. And so each year I have a consistency of knowing, once these get a certain size, I need to put down that support. And there's consistency of harvest. There are some things out there like okra that if it is picked on a daily basis or every other day, you're going to end up getting a better harvest overall, just like you would with green beans or anything else. It's just kind of in their DNA that they will do better when they've been harvested. And the fruit of whatever that particular vegetable is, once it's harvested, the plant does better. Same thing with tomatoes. So there is a consistency and a rhythm to making a garden successful. Now, here's the last thing I'll end on. This doesn't have to be a drudgery or something that takes a lot of time, because as back to what I said in the beginning, if you have a 20 by 20 square in the corner of your backyard where there's a row of radishes, there's a row of tomatoes, and so on, it goes down. You have a row of peas. Is that coming in to weed that, if I have a little collinear hoe or a wire weeder, that literally could be a 15-minute process, because as we always say when we're weeding, if you get the weeds when they're tiny, you don't end up with big weeds that are a problem. The same thing with watering. if you're consistent with your watering, there's a less chance of overwatering, which can damage, and there's also less chance of you underwatering. So just those two things, if you took weeding and watering, that's going to increase your chances of being successful. The same thing once your plants, and if everything goes well, they're going to get to the size we're harvesting. So you know what? Every Friday when I get home from work is the day I'm going to harvest. And again, that may be a 15, 20-minute thing in a small backyard garden. Now, in a market garden like Whirlwind Family Farm, sometimes, like we had a harvest day yesterday. That was kind of an all-day thing because my wife and I will take different parts of the garden and do our harvesting, and it's just more time consuming. But this is our job, and this is what we do as our business. So that's really it. It's a simple thing, but I think it applies to just about anything in life. If you have a consistency at your work or at your career, the chances of you being successful are going to be greater. I always use the metaphor of baseball players. If you look at the greats, those baseball players that end up in the Baseball Hall of Fame, they are those who consistently did the practicing, the time, the batting practice, field work. They did it year in and year out. And even though they may not have been the best physically tall guy, and you can look at this in baseball, there's some of those guys out there that were not that big, but their careers were absolutely incredible because they had a consistency. Holds true in gardening, and that's my tip for gardening. Is I know that's kind of broad and that's an overview, and the last thing I'll leave you with for that consistency, in today's world, that's easier because if you're on a Android device or an Apple device, there's so many different reminders we can put into our calendars. And I do that out here as well, by the way. Even down to my watering is I will put reminders in. If I've started a couple of rows out here, because we don't use timers, I will set a row for an hour, hour 15 minutes for a couple of rows, and I will tell my iPhone, SIRI, I'm not going to say her out loud, something will go off. I will tell her, remind me in an hour that my southwest drip needs to be turned off. So it's just consistency. And in today's world, we have so many electronic reminders that we can do on our smart devices that can remind us to do these things. And so we can set it for every Wednesday, every Thursday, that I'm going to do these tasks. So I hope that helps. Hope you can apply that to your backyard garden or your farm, and it could be something that takes you further along in that gardening process. Thanks so much for finding our channel. We appreciate it so much, and it helps Whirlwind Family Farm when you like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and certainly leave your comments on what you think and what you do to have a successful garden each year. So blessings over you, your family, your garden. Check out, we got another video right here that will take you further along that process. Check that out. Talk to you soon from Whirlwind Family Farm.